Hey there, I'm meteorologist Ryan Shoptaw with a quick tropical weather update. It's currently Monday, August 21st, 2023. We have a lot going on, a busy Atlantic picture you can see from Emily, Gert, Franklin, and Tropical Depression 9 or potential Tropical Cyclone 9 in the central Gulf of Mexico. Now, these three out in the Atlantic and the Caribbean Sea, Emily and Gert likely not going to impact land anytime soon. Most likely will be open storms in the Atlantic basin. However, Franklin, the Caribbean Sea, will impact the Dominican Republic later on this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, providing rough seas, heavy rain, and some tropical weather through the middle part of this week. Otherwise, the Atlantic, most storms remaining out at sea and no immediate threats to land with these particular systems. Now, going forward in time, this is a forecast model through this weekend and even parts of early next week. The Atlantic will remain somewhat active. We'll continue to see tropical waves that try to organize. And depending on wind shear, the amount of dust in the atmosphere will all dictate whether they become a tropical depression or a tropical storm. One thing is for certain, the heat is a big factor in tropical cyclone development. And this is ocean heat potential. A lot of the buoys out in the water in the Gulf and the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic, they're registering temperatures at the sea surface of 90 plus in some of these shades of pink. And then this is ocean heat potential, so it's going down 30 to 40 feet, and it's even hotter than that. So it's very sufficient, very conducive, a favorable environment for tropical weather to get going. If it hits these areas this time of year, late August, early September, it's a favorable area for tropical cyclone development. Now here is potential Tropical Cyclone 9, a mouthful. And you can see how vast it is. Its reach on rain and showers and storms in the Gulf of Mexico. The Hurricane Center has released an advisory and a forecast cone for this, despite it not being named, because it's going to hit land in less than 24 hours. And here's the forecast cone making a landfall sometime Tuesday morning around sunrise, 8 a.m. just offshore. The forecast calls for a tropical storm, so winds sustained around 45 miles an hour on top of rain. You can see it's not very organized, but it has an area of low pressure, a closed circulation, but a lot of moisture just kind of spreading out in all directions, which means most of South and Central Texas is going to cash in on some pretty good rain over the next 24 hours, but it's going to be a quick moving storm. So that's the good news. Shouldn't provide much of a flooding threat in that area. So wind shear, typically things that can tear apart storms and hurricanes is dust, Saharan dust in the Atlantic. Also wind speeds aloft that are going so fast, like 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. Whenever the wind shear is high, that means wind speeds in the vertical and the atmosphere are going fast, and that can typically tear apart tropical storms and hurricanes. Now, we don't have high or moderate wind shear, but we have some low to moderate wind shear at near, let's say, Houston, towards San Antonio and along the Texas Gulf Coast, which is going to hinder its intensification process, if you will. But for the most part, it's in a favorable environment as it moves to the west by about Tuesday morning, where it will make landfall somewhere between Brownsville and Corpus Christi, maybe near Willacy or Kennedy County, again early Tuesday. So wind shear, while there is some out there, it's not going to do much. But the big story, it's losing room. So if it had the entire Gulf to strengthen, it'd likely intensify very quickly because the water is so hot. But notice on forecast models, it's just kind of a big blob of moisture, heavy rain as it moves in Tuesday morning early. This is a high resolution model, heavy rain moving towards Laredo, towards counties like Duval County, near Webb County, and towards the Rio Grande, where some of these downpours could exceed 2 to 3 inches of rain in a short amount of time, which could lead to high water spots and flash flooding. We'll see some lingering outer bands of rain kind of streaming from the Gulf of Mexico all day Tuesday between Austin, Houston, Corpus Christi, and the Valley and towards northern Mexico. But notice how fast that system moved off. It's a quick and fast moving tropical system and dropping a large amount of rain in a short amount of time. So here's the rainfall forecast between now and around Wednesday morning. So for the next couple of days, depending on when you watch this video. Not much for Austin or up I-35 around the hill country and around San Antonio and that region. Between a tenth to a half an inch of rainfall on average, so not a lot. But it does increase vastly the farther south you go into Jim Wells County towards George West, Beeville, Corpus Christi, and this swath of rain could easily exceed 3 to 4 inches of rain between now and early Wednesday. So that's the latest update and forecast on this next tropical system. If it were to be named Tropical Storm Harold, that is next up to bat on the 2023 slate of names for this season. Okay, August tropical development. You can see how that system developed. It usually and typically based on years of data and past storms, they usually take this path of that westerly movement as they move through the Caribbean Sea, and they start to make a right and northwest turn as they move towards the Gulf of Mexico. This is just kind of the climatological track of the late August part of the hurricane season. Most likely areas to develop is near the northern Caribbean Sea and just east of the Bahamas. That's just some of the data we picked up in the last several years. Usually hurricanes and storms typically take that track in this time of year. And look at this, and it's in August and September we see the largest amount of storms develop in the Atlantic Basin. Here is the list of names for this season. Again, next name is Harold, Adalia, and Jose, wrapping up with Tammy, Vince, and Whitney for this year's hurricane season. So far we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 named storms.